far, SCADA system and so on. And I can say that our security team is doing a great job in spreading awareness about phishing and similar attacks. But this rest, it's being somehow ignored because it's considered out of scope. But surprise, this guy, the adversary, he does not care about what your idea of what your coverage of your future job should be. So, and yeah, if that is not a good motivation enough for you to care about this in your future professional job, you might be concerned about how secure your kids are. So I hope you will try to understand. Then some of you might say, but logs are old. It's like it has been superseded by electronic access control systems. Well, first of all, you always need some backup. If you demand high availability, you need something mechanical. You think you will always have electricity. You think there will not be some electromagnetic boom that will destroy electronics. No, you need to care about this. And then some of you might think that these electronic access control systems are somehow inherently more secure. Well, imagine an institution full of IT security experts, institution which does a great deal of research about smart buildings, to which you can do something like this. Yeah, old PowerPoint, doesn't matter. And it worked back then from any phone, basically. Just needed to know the secret, which was a phone number. And for every intercom on this whole university. So, it is going to be slightly harder. Don't anticipate it. Yeah. And you might ask, why would I do that? Because it's fun. And if you are going to deploy some electronic system, you should always ask not only what feature it will provide to you, but how much fun it will provide to your future adversary. For example, this was so much fun. It took me about 2 hours to create this, but yeah, it's nice, And we don't have to go too far for some different example. It can also provide lots of information to your adversary. This little box, Honeywell's NetAccess 123, is being used on the dormitories of this university, and it is just sending unciphered, unencrypted card ID to the network. Don't ask me how did I connect to that network, like the cables are not protected in any way. Yeah. And as a bonus, you can take this and find, or you could find on the information system as a totally unauthorized person, the identity, the actual identity of the person. And it worked even for those who were not active at the university and selected that they don't want to be shown in information system publicly. And it actually stopped working in that interface after we tried to scan the whole key space. So they just noticed that. So sorry, like the logs will be important in some ways for quite a long time from now still. Even if you are demanding high availability, or if you don't want to tell your secrets to your adversary. Now some of you might say, okay, I get it, it is important, but there are standards, there are organizations, and MyLogSmith told me that MyLog is good. Yeah? Well, remember this box, for example. It has been certified by a national security authority for use up to top secret in Czech Republic. And there is a problem with certifications that they don't quite care about the other parts. They are considering this device only as an electronic device. They don't care about the IT part of that. With logs, it's something similar. There are only 2 public standards in Europe which are doing something about them, and one of them is only considering brute force attacks. So they are imagining your adversary as this guy with something dark around his eyes and using these hardcore brute force tools. It does not matter that the lock can be opened by just by sticking a needle in it. If it cannot be opened by some of these tools, it's all right. It will get the high security level which is 4 for the locks. Then there is another standard which is also trying to do something about the mathematical probability. So they are caring about the number of combinations, the number of movable parts. If something on the key can reveal something about the key, but still, there can be locks which you can open in 2 seconds without any previous experience, and they would get the grade 6. So that's not too much. And yeah, National Security Authority, they created methodology for one of the most prevalent attacks among the thieves. And it does not quite make sense. It's made to be like, if you are a lock manufacturer, you could just make it not the attack proof, but the methodology proof. So in the end, it is as strong as creating a password, telling that it's a guess proof. And if a monkey cannot guess the password in 1,000 tries, then it's certifiably guess proof. So no, not this. And then yeah, there are these guys, these alphabet soup agencies like NSA in the US and so on. And yeah, they know a lot about all this stuff, but they don't quite care about your security. They care about where they can get. And there are 3 good stories which I will tell you in short. First, this guy, Matt Smith, a really great locksmith. He has developed and created this tool. It does not matter what it is right now. However, he listed it on his website and started selling it. And probably within a week, a big locksmithing company started selling almost exactly the same tool. So he called them, okay, how could you do that? Like, within a week, how is it even possible you designed and started manufacturing this? And they told him, we have been selling that for years to these guys. You just saw your listing and, okay, it's already public, so we can sell that. Then there are 2 legends which are being told in the US about our socialistic bloc. First is about the German Democratic Republic. It's being told that they were forcing manufacturers to introduce some special backdoors. I will tell about this complicability in a while. And you cannot find any proof of this. Like, it's probably isn't true, like in this sense. However, this specific vulnerability is still prevalent among really, really high security and expensive locks until today. So they could just use that. There's no problem. Then there is another legend from Polska Ludowa, and it says that it forced people to provide their keys to authorities, which also, like, I've asked multiple Poles, older people, and they don't know about this. However, because we got rid of our systems and we published everything secret, you can find the really good documented ways how they can get hold of the keys. For example, in Czechoslovakia, if a new block of flats was built, all the default keys went to the state police. Or if you went to a theater, there was a really good chance that the lady on the code check was a fellow comrade, just taking your keys for a while. Or if you didn't go anywhere and they wanted your keys, they just called you, your doctor just called, sorry, can you come for a random X-ray screening of your lungs? This is really how they did that. You can read about that in Czech. Now, okay, you can say that. Yes, it's important. I probably cannot trust the authorities and organizations and my locksmith about it, but like, is picking a lock that simple? Like, I don't know, and that is not the question you should be asking here. I will get to that. However, first, I need to answer it, because it is important to first know how this all works. So sorry, we need to go through some boring stuff now. First, the terminology about locks. In Czech, it's quite crazy. We are calling the locks by the shape or by where are they being used. And that's hard to tell, like, what is the technology of the lock? What is the mechanism? In English, however, the locks are being called by the name of the part, of the actual part, which is blocking the lock from changing its position. So, as first, which everybody I hope knows, classic pin tumbler. So, just also about some terminology. You have some lock body, you have some lock core, then you have these 6 chambers in this case, and in each chamber you have a spring, a driver pin, and a key pin. Now, if in its default state, the driver pins are blocking the core from turning. But if the right key is inserted, then the interface between these pins will align with the interface of the core and the body, and we are calling this a shear line, and the core can be freely turned. Now, of course, also the key pins can block the core from turning. However, if these chambers are too long, you can press even those key pins beyond the shear line, and you can just open that lock. And that is the complicability which I was talking about, and you can find that in some locks which try to tell you they have security 10 out of 10. Still until today, really. Then there are some mutations to it. For example, this DIMPOS, it's basically the same thing. The only difference is, like in this basic state, in this basic thing, is that the pins are interacting with the flat side of the key. But otherwise, it's totally the same thing. However, the keys tend to look like super secure. It tends to be really expensive, so try to remember that. Then these guys, it's also almost the same thing. The only difference is that the axis of turning of the core is perpendicular to the shear line. However, people also tend to think that this lock is somehow more secure, high security. Try to remember that also. Then you have the cheapest locks on the market. You can see it everywhere, like in furniture, it's securing closets and medications and so on. And instead of pins, you have just wafers which slides through the key, and it has 2 shear lines. Is it better? Is it worse? We will see. Then you have another mutation of wafer locks, which are being called slider locks. It's only about that the wafer has some pointy thing in it, and it slides through also the flat side of the key. And this is really prevalent among car keys, like car locks. That's 90% of them, and also in some better locks. And these keys are sometimes called laser keys, which I believe it has nothing to do with lasers. Then lever locks. This is interesting. You have these spring-loaded levers with some gates in it, and you have some bar which has to go through them. And the key, of course, should take them to the right position. Interesting mechanism, and more interesting thing is that in Central Europe, it is being used almost exclusively in safes. Like, you don't see it here like on the front door. But everywhere else in the world, it's really prevalent. For example, in England, this is, by the way, just an example that the key can also look normally. In England, Ingersoll 10-lever lock is really popular and quite good. Then the most beautiful of them all, this is quite a new mechanism. It's only about 120 years old, so lockpicking community, they did not quite care about that for a long time. And it's the most expensive to purchase, the most expensive to pick either. How it works, we will try to play some video. You can see that this part, sidebar, is blocking the core from turning. Now, these discs have some through gates in them, and the key is just aligning these through gates in a way so that the sidebar can go inside the core and therefore stop blocking the core. It's probably slightly hard to see, so I can show you it on my lock, and you can see that why the pin is actually blocking the core from turning. There are these parts, I don't know how they're being called, The pin is being called Závornice in Czech, by the way. Quite nice name. So, first part of the answer is, every lock has some vulnerability, and it's just about being discovered or become feasible for some people, either because of the money or so on. Now we might say like, okay, I know this. How is that different from my world, from IT world? Well, there's a big difference that these vulnerabilities are not being fixed. They are still being produced. And that is quite a bad thing because, yeah, this is the real way. The security of locks are almost exclusively based on obscurity. And if there would be some locksmith, he would tell me immediately, why are you telling that? Like, it's secret. You should not. Like, you want to endanger your grandma or something. It's really the way of thinking for them. So in the end, I would bet that all of you would be able, with right tools, to pick your front door within a few weeks of practice. This is really the state of things. But it's all right. It's secret. It's like nothing to care about. So how this works, the theory behind it. Yeah. In math, you have this perfect world with, some designs and some axioms with theorems and so on. But in physics, it's really hard to create something perfect. So you can have this perfect design with figure eight, perfect design with 6 chambers of exactly the same size, exactly in line. However, if you manufacture that, it will somehow divide. Even if those differences are in microns, it is important, and we call these tolerances in lock world. How can you use that? Well, first of all, single pin picking, which is theoretically really easy. If you provide the torque to the core, there will always be one pin in way, which is first in way. If you then move that pin and you feel the resistance, if you move that pin in the correct position, then the core will slightly rotate and then another pin will be in the way. Theoretically, really easy. In practice, it's really hard to feel the right position and which pin is binding, which pin is not. Different locks are really different, and even the same modules are from instance to instance really, really different. However, there are easier things. Yeah. For example, in car world, you have these guys. Mr. Lishi is the guy on the picture here. He started manufacturing this in 2010, I think, and it is available for, I think, almost every car lock out there, and it's really easy to use. The only thing you have to do is have the feel for the torque. It has a sturdy base, and then because you have this gauge here, you always know where you are, so you can like really do a learned movement and just pick lock very quickly. And as a bonus, you also know the combination. And it's not only about cars. I think last year they started manufacturing for the Kwikset and Schlage profiles, which is like 80% of resident lock in the US. And right now, anybody who has that with little to no experience can just pick that lock. But there are even better things. Some locks, and there are many of them, they have really bad tolerances. So the picking goes like this, like you have to feel the torque, but you just need to do some random movements with tools which look like this. And it's especially prevalent in wafer locks. And this is really how most wafer locks can be opened. Like random movements and boom, it's open. Because these 2 shear lines, they provide you with the really good automatic feedback. How can I tell that? Yeah. But then there are even better things. Bumping, for example, this is a group of kinetic attacks. So basically this physics, from maybe some pool balls. Yes, so the third one will go to two next to each other, and only the last one will go out. It does not work like this in this case, but it's a good illustration. So bump keys, they're just specially made keys, and you will insert the key. You will have some spring or some piece of rubber right here, and with the hammer, with small hammer, you just bounce on the key while providing torque to that key, and it will eventually work. Of course, this is really dangerous because if somebody is trying to do that, and if you just walk by, you will tell, okay, he has probably some problem with his lock. Like he apparently has a key, so it's probably all right. So this is why it's really prevalent among thieves in the whole world. However, you need to have the right profile, and it's sometimes hard to find the right profile. So I think in England they've created this tool, a snap gun, which does this, but it does it. It's more universal, and it's quite simple to use once you learn that, and you don't have to pay big money for that. This is the low-cost version I made when I was 14 years old. This is just a slow motion, how strong it is. And I have it in my collection until today, and I'm using that, and it's still working great. Much better than the original ones I bought from China. So, yeah, and then you have these, but electric. The only downside of that is it makes lots of noise. But it's really simple to use, and some companies, the Germans, Multipeak, they even removed the last thing you had to care about, which is the filling for the torque. They've created an automatic turning tool, and basically you just insert it and wait. Yes, do some random movements, maybe with the electric pick, and eventually you will just get it open. Just wait for that for a bit. Yeah, here it is, and it will detect automatically. Now, yeah, the same physics, which is like, okay, the pin which is in incorrect position is binding, also provides another kinds of attacks. For example, impressioning is a standard way of how locksmiths are creating keys for locks which they don't know anything about. It's really simple. You just need to have the right blank key, file it down to be really flat so you see any deformations, insert it in the lock and do some turning movements up and down, and you will immediately see how many pins you have and where they are. Then just create the starting grooves and do the same thing again. However, now you will just look at the most most visible mark, and you will just file down the most visible mark because this is the pin which provides the most resistance. And in the end, you will just have a working key. But there is a much better way, because for some locks there are tools which deform themselves. They are like easy to use, and you can use them repeatedly, and you don't have to have any skill at all to use them. For example, if you remember this, because all the pins in this case are accessible from the front, you can have a really bulky tool in this direction, which deforms its rods or moves its rods to the correct position, and it's really strangely simple for most locks, of course. This is how I washed my clothes for free when it wasn't free on the dormitories a few years ago. Yeah, already open. Also, for another mutation of the pin tumblers, you have this so-called foiling attack. So you just take a piece of foil on a deep cut key or pre-made profiles, and then do something like this. Yeah, so he just now removes the thing which keeps it, and the foil will just deform quickly to correct position, and you're done. And these tools are most prevalent also in car locks, because car thieves are one of the most wealthy people, and they are called very often turbo decoders. So if you Google for turbo decoders, you will find some really crazy, interesting tools. And for the most prevalent concern in Czech Republic, Volkswagen, you have something like this. I won't show this because but this guy, this is a tool for 60 US dollars, and he's actually using it incorrectly this time. And even though he's using that incorrectly, he will eventually find the right way to insert it in a while, and eventually open that lock, because again it will just deform itself to a correct state, and then he can just read from that lock the combination he needs and just creates the key. So yeah, just in a while, I know it looks slightly weird, but if he finds car which is just staying far from people, he can get anything from that car. And yes, the two turbo decoders, which are more expensive, they are being sold for almost anything. Yes, and just a bonus in this part of the lecture, there is this tool, which if you pick the lock in the wrong direction, or if it's locked multiple times, there is a tool, a really cheap tool, which will spin the core so fast that there is no time for the pins to go inside the core. Okay. And yeah, important to remember that these tools are being developed constantly, and we don't know which tools are using these, alphabet soup agencies. It's just they're just keeping that secret. Good. Now, what has been done to mitigate this? Yes, you have some manufacturers who care, and the most obvious thing you can do about this is to improve precision. And yeah, it helps quite a lot. Maybe it's much harder to feel for inexperienced people to find the right pin and find the right position. It plays with the feedback. But well, we will go next. Then security pins, really important thing. For inexperienced speakers, it will really play with your feedback. It will be quite hard to, unless you know, okay, I'm probably having a spool pin. Maybe I can do this with that. Until you learn this, it's really hard to single pick it. But what is a really precise lock with all these security pins against electric lockpick? Like, yeah, there are so many random movements in a second that while providing a little bit of torque, in the right moment, you can already see the pins are at their shear lines, and this is really how fast you can open the lock. It's just too noisy. Then some companies, they try to hide the pins. This one is really funny because it does not work at all. You can just create a tool on your electric pick which looks like the key, and it works really well. Of course, the Bowley lock company says that in this case he had the lock which is ideal for this attack, but well, if they are right, then 20% of the locks on the market can be opened this easy. And also, it opened a way for another attack. We have told about that. And yeah, quiz question. I know that Vasek Matias is already looking at the fingerprint here, but try to consider more this part. Can somebody tell me like what attack is like visible here? What can you do about that? We have been talking about that. Nobody? Okay. Just foiling. Like it is a nice surface. The differences are quite small in so that the aluminum foil can be easily put on that, and it's much easier to use because if you look how the key starts to touching the pins, you don't deform all the foil while inserting it. You don't have to, because you have it all at once. And what Bally company has to say about that? Well, foiling is a professional technique, and it isn't a common criminal technique. And our log is still secure. Well, this is not true at all, because foiling in China is the most prevalent technique, and it's really easy to learn. Yeah, so the log companies. Yeah, and then some manufacturers, they're trying to do really bizarre things, and yeah, it's also about obscurity, but you know, it's about slowing down the attacker. So, for example, this magnetic lock, it's really interesting. However, it still can be picked, and you can. Well, we can talk about that later, but I can already imagine how this can be self-impression itself. Yeah? This one, you can find videos of this being picked in probably 10 to 15 minutes. Yeah, it has like this many of pins and pins inside of pins, but still, like, foiling, come on. Then this is a legend. This is a real legend. It has been securing American payphones in 70s, I think. They spent about $1 million for the development, and then just one guy pops up. Is really famous. You can Google that. Who has been able to pick them quite fast, and he stole almost all $1 million they invested into developing this lock from the payphones during, I think, 2 years or something like that. And if you see this, it's classic lever lock, but this is interesting. Before you can even tension this properly, before this rod, this bar will touch the levers, this part will stop the levers from moving. So really clever design. However, the guy who picked it in the 70s was the only one until last year, when some guy just posted a video. Yeah, this is how he probably did it. And from then you can find another videos. Yeah, I tried it and it's really not that hard. So there is always something. Yeah, and Abloy Protect 2, for example, for a long time there was only one person on the YouTube who showed that he can pick it, like good proof. However, he did not show the important thing, like he did not show the secret. But last year, another guy came and showed the secret. And from then, other people confirmed, yes, if I created this tip for this tool, yeah, it can be done in this way and in this way. So, yeah, every lock can be picked. That's a fact. Yeah, another part of the answer is that most locks, they're quite easy. They're not too hard, for various reasons. At the same time, the tools are available. When I was young, I had to manufacture my first tools. However, now you can buy them from AliExpress, from Banggood, some really good tools from the German and the American and I don't know which companies, which are of really high quality and provide really good feedback. At the same time, the information is everywhere. Even like the most popular guy on YouTube about this, you probably did not see anything else than his hands. He's doing quite a good job protecting his identity. and he's quite popular. You know, like you can see all the, not all, you can see most information is just out there. So there is nothing like stopping you from trying that. At the same time, there are features which we are going to talk about in a while, which are making it even easier for pickers, but still, like, picking is not the thing we are here about. It's not the main thing, because picking the lock, it does not look good. Like, if you have cameras and people walking around, you don't want to pick lock even if you are in an invisibility cloak. You know what is invisibility cloak? Invisibility cloak is the type of cloak, if you wear it, you can do almost anything, almost any kind of infrastructure, and nobody will ask any questions. And I tried this with some locks, but it did not feel good either. Like, you don't want that. So, what is the important thing? I will tell you. But first, we need to talk about the business, how it works, very quickly. You have this really important triangle. Yes, lock manufacturers, third-party key machines manufacturers, and locksmiths. We are going to talk about that for a while. Lock manufacturers, what they do, apart from manufacturing locks, they lie to all of you most of the time. They are using just words and claims which are not true. They deceive you about the possibilities of creating a key, unlicensed key or uncontrolled key, and they are doing the thing which Intel does, and they are trying to really scare you from providing information about that. And one company actually patented a self-impressioning tool for their locks, so nobody else can manufacture it. This is how they do it. Then, third-party keyblank manufacturers, there are some big names. Most prevalent in Czech Republic is probably Silka. They are creating the key blanks for, they try to create it for all the profiles out there. It's sometimes hard, but this is how they work. And at the same time, they are manufacturing universal machines for these keys. And they are, yes, they are just putting together lots of information about all the locks. And then locksmiths, nice guys. It's their living most of the time. So if you ask them to do something, they will just try to do it because they get money from it. And they are very usually partnered in love with these third-party key blank manufacturers because they have the universal machine from them, and they have the blanks for most keys on the market, for most locks on the market, because it's really hard to partner with all the lock manufacturers, original lock manufacturers. So in the end, it looks like this, and this is how it works with blanks. So manufacturers, they are providing the locks and also the blanks to locksmiths under some conditions. At the same time, these guys are trying to sell as many their blanks as possible. And at the same time, of course, lock manufacturers are trying to make it hard for them to do that. But in reality, it looks like this. So, where I'm trying to get here, yeah, key control. So how can lock manufacturers stop you from copying your or somebody's key? Sorry. There are three parts to that. First is they try to limit the information. Second is they try to limit the availability of a blank. And third is limit the technology. We are going to evaluate some of this stuff. So first is they try to limit the information. So all the keys you have, they can be described by something called a bitting or code or direct code, which actually is a numerical description of how deep are these bits. Then sometimes you have a key code, which is the code which is sometimes written on the key and also on your security cards. And this can be paired. There are public databases of these versus these. And the semantics of that particular code is defined by something we call card. It goes back to these physical machines in which you insert these cards, and you just align these little needles to the locations on the card and just cut the key by the code. So this term just survived to the electronic world. This is how a classic card looks like, for example. So it has how many rows it has. In this case, one row, classic key. Where is the stop? So the part of the key which stops you from inserting the key too much to the lock. In this case, it's this part. It's also very classic. How far from the stop is the first position, first gap. In this case, it's 520 hundredths of a millimeter. What is the difference between the positions? So 400, how many it has cuts in each row? What are the depths? You have it here, and this is actually the semantics of the code. And how should the cut look like? So you see 90 degrees angle, and it has to be this long. No. So this, what you can see here, is a good example because it is the most prevalent card in Czech Republic, because it's from newer, by newer you can understand after 2000 logs of FAB. And the point I'm trying to make that some of the mechanisms which are using this card, they mark as restricted. Yes, so you really have a locksmithing software, and you have a table. Okay, like this uses the card 606, and this uses the card 606, but this you cannot open because it's restricted. But you can open another one, and you can see all you need to know. And it's really hard to. So it's in the end, it's really hard to block some informations. And even if they would be successful, you just need few examples to deduce this card, and maybe you'll create your own marking. So it doesn't work at all. As the example where you can get this information, probably the best thing for everyone is this Instacode application, which is quite good. Like you have this data about cards, about different lock systems, about blanks, with comparisons and so on. Also some information about cars. You have simple tools how you can get it inside. And for all the add-ons, it costs like 30 euros per month. And you don't need to prove anything to them. You can just buy it and learn all this stuff. Everything. Yeah, and I probably don't have to tell you this. So there is another good thing, which is catalog of non-restricted blanks. You can just register there for free, and on the front page they have like this sort by publish date. So you have the juiciest bits they found out how to manufacture and get around some protections. Okay, then limiting the availability of blanks. The totally basic thing is that this is something that all the manufacturers do. They say to locksmith, okay, I will provide you with blanks, but you need to sign this contract, and in this contract you agree that you won't copy to these keys if the customer doesn't have a security card or something else. Of course, this does not work because third-party blank manufacturers, that they do not require anything like that. They just sell you the blanks without any conditions. Then there is this thing, utility model, together with trademark, and it also doesn't work. They are actually trying to misuse the utility model so that they will just somehow insert the key blank to that and hope that if somebody else will create that key blank, they can sue them. And it doesn't work because my favorite example, FAB Control, they've created a profile in the system and used the utility model. They even put a text protected by law on all the keys. But what Silk did, they've created just a blank which works, but it's different. But it works. And it was so embarrassing that FAB started to distribute these blanks freely. And this is really really often really prevalent way of how local manufacturers do it. This and how it looks like. This is their utility model. This is the Silkas blank, and this is how it fits. You see, like there are just things which do not need to be there, and it's different. It's totally different. No, not totally, but it's different cat, different profile, but it works. These are how it's being done. Then you can do patents, and patents are great because patents have to be novel in some way, and yeah, it's therefore if somebody creates something which is patented, they should be sued, and they should not do that. However, some companies, they do it wrong, in a totally wrong way. My favorite example is everybody's favorite, this. Probably all of you have seen this in Czech Republic, and maybe somewhere you go very often. They've created a patent, and they claim to the customers that the key is patented. The key is patented, therefore implying that it cannot be copied or created or something. And that would be good, but they are deceiving because they did not patent the key. Okay, they did because they called the patent the key, but they actually patented a system of profiles. So you can see, like, you have this base shape, and into that base shape you can cut some combination of the triangles. And then, if you cut all the triangles, you have this profile which can be fit into every lock of these systems. But like with the number of profiles and lock companies and so on out there, how hard it might be to find the profile freely distributed blank which is compatible with that. And there are some great tools for locksmiths to do that. This is really great thing, Silkas Optica tool. It will scan the key and also the bitting, but also the profile, and then try to match the scanned profile with blanks which are in the database. And they will tell you, okay, these will probably fit. Yeah? And if there is no blank, they can still cut it, for example, on this machine, just based on the data from Silkas Optica. And for example, there are all in one box. Also, the Germans were creating this, and it will just replicate the profile from an original key. And in our case of Guard, you have this profile, Silka TN36, or reverse. They are also using the reverse things, which is officially made for Slovenian company Titan. However, with almost no modifications, you can use that in these guard tricks, and it's totally legal. And yet also they made it intentionally thinner, and they are doing that for lots of profiles because they know it will probably fit to multiple different locks, multiple different profiles. And yeah, the locksmiths are perfectly aware of this, and even if you will come original with your security card, they will very often offer you that, okay, this blank is cheaper, so maybe you want to do that, and they have a really good margin of that one. This is how it looks like. This is the original patent, and on top of that is the Silkas profile. You see, it's not a perfect fit, but most of the time you don't need any modifications, and sometimes only small modifications are needed. Here you see a real life example. Here is on the right is the original EVVA's master profile. On the left there is this blank from Silka, and in the center there is modified and already cut blank which works. And this is an example from the actual video where some locksmiths try to match the profile. You can see here that it does not have all the triangles cut out, but this is how the Optica software matched to the blank. Then another manufacturers, they do the patents right. So yes, it's really hard to create the key if the locksmiths will be really afraid if they will try to do something they should not. because there are controls and it's expensive. They are really checking it. So yeah, patents done right. This is the thing to look for. However, locksmiths very often can copy that. You just need a security card. Yes, and the best thing which goes in hand is to limit the technology. Yes, for example, this is a 3D printed metal key. Yeah, I know, like 3D printing, you just create a design and put it on Shapeways or something. But it's nice try. Or electromechanic locks. Yeah, this is Czech company Tokos. The electronics has been developed at our competition with the Brno University of Technology. And yeah, it's nice. Like it's hard for any locksmiths to do something with it. By the way, the crypto of the system is kind of obscure, and when I looked at the chips which are being used there, it has totally, absolutely no cryptographic engines in it. Like, so I guess I don't know. I leave that without the comments. Yeah, and this EVVA magnetic. This is how the key looks like. I cannot even imagine like how a locksmith would or somebody Silka will try to make an actual blank for that. I don't know. So we're going to something everybody's waiting for, and yeah, I know that this is maybe slightly implying something bad, so we can rephrase it a little bit because copying the key is like mostly for you as a consumer, not something illegal until you agree not to do so. But because we cannot be so explicit on this faculty, I can try to just tell you about some general life advice. So, advice number one: if you ever want to make good photos of some physical parts, do it this way. Just multiple photos on a flat surface with some reference scale. Sometimes with multiple perspectives, sometimes you will have to deduce something. Sometimes you can just take a part which is compatible with your first part and to photograph that. It's sometimes easier to get some information. And if you see some markings, some letters on that part, it can tell you some more information about it. Advice number two: free software. If you want to measure this part of the photo, there are two really good applications. First is key decoder. It needs special reference, particular reference, a credit card. They say because of security, and yeah, it's designed mainly for keys, so it might be inconvenient for some of the parts. And there is image meter, but it's full of ads and it's limited to 4 measurements, but you just delete some and add some other, and it works. Then you have, for example, this, but it's really hard to measure anything else but the keys. But I needed to put it here. Okay, advice 3A, where you can get some things, for example, blanks or files or something. You can do whatever you want with that. Then advice 3A1, if you want to know which are the most prevalent profiles in Czech Republic, you want to have a good collection, just look at what Czech military police or any other authority is buying. Advice 3B, good locksmiths around. Klíčové centrum, north from here, they know my name, it's really nice. And they just need the blank, know the blank code, the code of the key, and the card of the key, not the security card, the card we were talking about. And they will just make the key, unless it is protected. And by the way, they were buying these profiles also from them. And if you cannot go anywhere and you have your security card and you want copies of key, you just scan or photo this security card and send them and tell them how many keys you want, and they will just send it by mail. It's really that easy. So, but back to locks. You're probably wondering what is a security card. It's really simple. It's most often a piece of plastic, but sometimes it's on paper, the older ones. It has a security in some language on it. and it has unique code which only the manufacturer knows how he can create the key from that. Did some of you trust that? Like, it's totally not true, because most of the time it has a code which is the actual bitting of the key, or the code you can find based on the bitting on public database. Sometimes it's really unique code, but that's not very often, because as Bowley Log Company would say, Photoshop is a professional attack. This is also my favorite company, Docos. This their actual manufacturing process. They first create a security card and then manually create the lock based on that. So you see that this is just the combination of the key. And they will also provide you with a template on their website. This is how our security card looks like. Yeah, so these are some good examples. You see, for example, I don't have a bitting here, but these codes are the codes which are either written on the key, or you can find the code based on the key. That's guarded. This is really interesting. They are actually, this thing is 17, is a profile. It is duplicated here to maybe look it more beautiful. And this 2, it's just the security level, the physical security level of that. So it doesn't quite matter. Only the profile, and this, you will create a photo, Photoshop that, send it to them, and they will just make your key, because no question asked. Why? Yeah, and sometimes you can find these key cards also, the security cards also in public contracts. This is an actual prison, so you can like make a key for it before you can go there. And because sometimes it's more fun to go inside personally. You can just make a physical card, because, well, it's quite easy. Also, of course, I did not go with to Klíčové Centrum, because they know me and they would be quite suspicious. But if I went anywhere else, they just made the keys for me. And so just you create this fake from an original, and because why not? Yeah, and I almost forgot. If you ever wanted to pick up a good hobby, you can try casting. For example, if you want to cast a key, you need some things, and you can just cast the keys as James Bond. And most of the keys, high protected and so on, can be duplicated this way. And even if there are some interactive elements, you can like replicate that, but it's quite harder. And also the Germans, they will sell you this package just for this, all in one. But yeah, you basically just need this mold, and everything else, because it's really hard to find a good mold, but everything else can be replaced by much cheaper. So why not start with casting? Yeah, this is just a quick video of how it works. So you have a 2-part silicon, which is right now moldable. So you put your, yeah, you need to make sure that you can actually afterwards split these parts. So there is baby powder for that. Yeah, just push it, screw it, wait a little bit. And here maybe is a chimney, because if you fill it with liquid, the air has to go somewhere, so we don't get bubbles. And just, it's actually also doing it improperly. This is important thing. Even the expensive metal you find, it is having really harmful fumes if you heat it too much. And then you just pour it in, and in the end, you have this. You will just remove the chimney part, and the key will most of the time work. Yeah, you need some experience to that. That's why I'm telling it's really good hobby to pick up. So the moral of the story is, don't do this. Like, even from this photo, you would be able to replicate some keys. Don't like put your keys just somewhere because I will always try to look at them. It's really dangerous. You can almost always copy keys you should not. Now, the thing that Vasek Matias was waiting for, how to weaken good logs. If you have really high quality logs, how you can weaken that. And it's not an attack you will be doing. These companies and organizations and so they will do it themselves. Yeah, well, they're just reference from one of the biggest log companies right in here. And what it is master key. Master key is a great thing. It's basically only about being able to open one lock with multiple different keys. So in this case, 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's quite a good thing theoretically because you don't need that much keys. The janitor or the owner just needs one key to get anywhere, and the managers do not have to have more keys. And if you need to replace some lock because it's damaged, the key control or the key distribution is really simple because you just need to distribute the keys on the lowest level because you can almost always create a new lock which is compatible with that system on that level. However, what is wrong with that? First of all, it's enabled by these green, in this picture, master wafers. And what they do is they are actually increasing the combination, the possibilities of a good state in each chamber. So it is immediately much easier to pick. And it's not only that, because if you have a high security lock with many security pins, the wafer pins are never security pins. So you can just overset that parts and very easily, just sometimes just rake it. Really, some locks around here are just rakeable. And some locks, which are really heavy master keys, so for example, entrance or some common places, they have so many master wafers that it's really like jiggle it and open it. It's really that bad. But also, yeah, it's hard to pick locks where there are cameras and so on. So, what is another thing? The worst thing about this is that the master key exists. Just the fact that it exists, and if somebody can compromise it, then all the locks have to be replaced to keep it secure. And how to compromise it? Well, you can, for example, find it somewhere and take a photo. That's first possibility. Or you can just find the multiple keys in the system and deduce that. Yes, that's also possible. But my favorite is a classic privilege escalation attack. And it works like this. Imagine that you want to, get something from your boss's office, something secret, and you are in your own office and you have sometimes, and let's say you have all the tools in the world, and you have a hacker mind. What can you do? How can you deduce the combinations? Theoretically, it's very easy. You just copy your own key. If you have a five-pin system, 5 times, and all the copies, in all the copies, you will just leave one position uncut. So it is first position uncut, second position uncut, third position uncut, and so on. And then you just follow simple algorithm. So for each of these incomplete copies, you will try with lock. If it turns, okay, you have found probably a new position. If it doesn't, and it should, because it is the same as the original key, there is something wrong. But if it doesn't, most of the time it's all right. You just cut down position and do that again, and do that for all the keys you have created. And in the end, you will get something like this. So, for example, if this was our original key combination, you have found that on second, third, and fourth position there is one new depth. So how do you know from that which is a master key? And yes, here you need to have some information, probably, but in the worst case scenario, you just create all the candidates and try in other locks, and you will see that if it works or not. So congratulations, you have a master key. And yes, I have to say, sorry, I didn't know that before, but yes, Matt Blaze really is the first one who described this 20 years ago almost. So this is the thing you should remember from this lecture. This is really how I see most of the locks, because I'm an honest person, so I try to do it. And there is, yes, this is an actual saying in English-speaking countries. Locks only keep the honest people out. Now we know why this is true. So yeah, you may ask, what can you do about that? First of all, you need to get down the probability of or the number of people who are able to do something with your locks. So yes, less used locking mechanisms. If you need really high security, then you can combine on one or two different mechanisms, which are really hard. Also, do not use mechanisms that are too known. For example, the Abloy Protect 2. Yes, it's probably one of the best mechanisms on the market. They have good marketing, but because of that, there are many people who are doing a great deal of research to that, and they are keeping that secret. Yes, and also use good, well-patented mechanism for which it is really hard to create unlicensed key, and do not be deceived by the rating of the companies. 10 out of 10 or 5 out of something, Aegis or something like that. The only thing which is somehow good is subreddit's lockpicking karate belt system. You can actually get this belt if you can prove on even a private video to some locksmiths that you have been able to single pick a particular lock which is in that category. And yeah, this is important. It's only about single pin picking. So even the Bowley lock is, for example, as rated as a black belt. So you need also, in this case, do some educated picks. Yes, also try to find a video if somebody has been able to create a good attack to that particular lock, because if it is online on YouTube, then anybody can find that. Yes, avoid master key. That's just forbidden. Forget about that. It's really if somebody is good enough, he can just know. It might be hard or even impossible to recreate that lock. But if somebody knows the combination, it's also easier to pick the lock. Yes, do not forget about if this is also important. The thing we were talking about in the beginning. Level 4 locks are good because even the brute force attack are important, and you need to care about that. Don't forget about the electronic security, but do not depend on that, because you may not have security, but it's a good redundance towards checking. And yeah, try to educate yourself. However, in this case, it's quite hard, because what you are used to is that if some vulnerability has been discovered, they will always try to boast about it, like 50 pages long white paper and nice animated web page. But in this world, the most juicy bits of information you will find in a video, which is long pulled down on a video of guy who is being even secretive about that video in that video, and even that video has been pulled down recently because it contained too much work, and the price to pay for releasing info is too high, as he says. So this is really how some juiciest bits of information are hidden, and this is sadly the way it is. Security by obscurity. Where you can get from here, first you can read my my paper for this course from last year or before 2 years. You can read there like in the text some more information, and that's quite good, I think. Then on YouTube you can follow some of these people. So Diven Olan about physical security and stuff. This Finnish guy, I have it in bold here because he's the first one who actually showed how to pick Abloy Protect 2, and many more. Yes, and Cons, of course, it's really important. And everybody's favorite lockpicking lawyer, he very recently did a keynote for IT security expert, which is also quite interesting. And yeah, Reddit. Sometimes there will pop up something that in 5 minutes has to be removed because somebody just found some tool and asked, what is this for? And suddenly the profile is removed. So that's interesting. And the most important thing, what have you learned today? Is just small piece, small part of whole physical security world, because there are much more things around logs which can be exploited. And I think that even on this faculty we should talk about that for more. So this has been kind of an advertisement for the future possible course. So if you are interested, just don't forget to tell about it to Professor Matias, and you'll see. Okay, that's all from me for now. And we can go to some questions. I hope you have some. Just don't be afraid. You might want to know something more.
So there aren't any laws or regulation regarding the tools, like you can carry around all the lockpicks and it's okay, because you say like, it's my hobby, I'm not going to steal anything.
Yes, in Czech Republic or in whole Central Europe, you can just buy these tools and it's not regulated anyhow. In Japan, in China, for example, in these Asian countries, you cannot have it. You need to have a license for that. But around here, you can just have the tools.
And if you are trying to learn the lockpicking, is there any good literature, or like, do you have to be licensed lockpicker?
Yeah.
What is the process of becoming a lockpicker? Because I know that there is a word zámečnictví, but it doesn't really mean like unlocking the locks, because it means completely different thing, which is what I learned from my father, who is like studied in that field of study. But it had nothing to do with actual like locks, like lockpicking the locks. So what is the course of like becoming?
Yeah. I will start from the back, from the end. The AGNV group, which is like probably the biggest company in Czech Republic, they have the Klíčové Centrum and so on. They are having courses, but they will select you. Like, okay, you want to have Are you locksmith? Really? They will, it's about this secretive thing. They are trying to be really secretive. And yes, locksmiths who are really interested and they are talented, they will learn that themselves, because yes, you have all these YouTube videos. Of course, you will start with classic pin tunnel. You will start first raking, and what you need to do is not to have too much information for lockpicking, not for exploiting things, but to have many things to play with. So, for example, the way the famous lockpicking lawyer started, he bought 10 pieces from every lock he was interested, and just to watch the TV and try to pick it. And you will just learn, okay, this is good way for me, because everybody has the different type of feel. There are locksmiths who, or most pickers, they try to tell you that the lighter tension is good. Lockpicking lawyer really likes to heavy tension. You really hear the click in these videos, for which you need to have really high quality tools and so on. So yes, videos have too many things to play with, and that's it. Just in years with experience. For example, what I started doing is on the dormitory, Náměstí Míru, there is an underground part of the building, and no cameras, nobody was there. So I just tried, this is an interesting lock, this is an interesting lock, and this is how I've been practicing. This you should not do. Everybody will tell you, do not play with locks which are in use because you can damage them. Hopefully, never happened to me. Okay, maybe once, but
especially don't play with those you are using.
yeah. Yeah. Anything else?
How much money cost white safe lock that is not easy to unlock?
That's a good question. I don't really know. I'm not specialized in lever locks, in safe locks, so I don't really know. But most of the things on the market are not good because you can see lots of videos how to exploit that. Most of the time when they are electromechanical, there are backups. There are really bad backups, like low quality locks. So I don't know. I would have to have more research about that.
So I think you don't buy a very good lock in some casual shop or
No.
it's garbage what you
Yeah.
buy in a shop.
Yeah, exactly. If you will get some educated selection, you can bring down the possibilities. But most of the time, as I told you, institution full of IT security experts, and you can open all the doors with a phone. I can actually maybe try. Yeah, still works. So this is how it works. Maybe a bonus. The attack about this privilege escalation. I of course did, and the point is that you do not have to have like real blinds. You can just have a piece of plastic for trying all the combinations, and this is how I did it in 2 hours on this faculty. So professor has the key I created. I hope. Do you have it here?
No.
and yeah, it's not quite that hard. You have many tools you can use. You can improvise and so on. Any more questions?
If not, then let's thank the speaker. Perfect. Thank you very much. You can take it as a bonus lecture. Definitely, it will not be covered in the exam.
Maybe in the future.
And I want to ask, first a reminder, don't forget the term project reports, due Sunday midnight. Don't forget that. We have the exam scheduled for 12 o'clock, 40 something minutes from now on. Can you please raise your hand if you are going to write the exam? If there is all 8 of us, we can start right now. Can you raise your hand if you are here for the exam? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we are missing one person, unfortunately. So let's have a break and let's rejoin, have a quick lunch, and let's rejoin here 12 o'clock sharp. Okay?
Can you keep the things here?
I will not watch them. You definitely can. The room is booked for us, but nothing valuable. Super.
You can just look at it.
Yeah,